So this speech is a kickoff of what's called the Week of Ambassadors. This week, the ambassadors of France from around the world are coming together, and they will listen to their president, who will deliver an important speech. This is the second time he's addressed the ambassadors. You can expect quite a long speech. Last year, it lasted for more than an hour and 15 minutes. He won't go into details, but he'll give the broad outline of what he wants for French diplomacy. This is a man who's been very active on the diplomatic front. He's done multiple trips around the world, and he really wants to push for a multilateral approach to world problems. Last year, during his speech, he focused a lot on security, and he said the first priority of France was the fight against Islamic terrorism. He also talked about Iran, about North Korea, about climate, and all these issues will be talked about again today. But with the latest developments, especially with the new policies of the Trump administration, this was clearly seen as a setback for Mr. Macron, who's pushed for a multilateral approach, whereas Mr. Trump has really been unilateral in his decisions. As you know, Mr. Trump and Mr. Macron seem to share some kind of friendship. They seem to have a quite good relationship, but behind all the hugs and the smiles and the handshakes, Mr. Macron wasn't able to convince Mr. Trump, whether it's on trade, whether it's on Iran, whether it's on North Korea. So this is clearly seen as a setback for Mr. Macron. And of course, during his speech today, he will also focus a lot about Europe and about the latest developments here in Europe.
So, obviously, Macron was hailed as the man who could potentially save Europe and deliver the reform. In terms of the speech today, Bryan, are we expecting to see Macron, trying to come good on that promise of reform?
Yes, of course, Mr. Macron will continue to push for more Europe. This is somebody who's really pushed for a more integrated Europe. So that means more power for Brussels, whether it's on social policies, on culture, on politics, on economy. And this is really, when he was elected, you have to remember, Mr. Macron was seen as a champion of Europe, and it was seen as a victory against populism. But we've had to notice over the last few months a growing rise of populism. And this is clearly a setback for Mr. Macron. You look at his southern border in Italy, you now have the far-right Liga that is firmly in power. So this is a challenge to Mr. Macron's call for a more integrated Europe. He's also pushed for a Eurozone budget with a Eurozone finance minister. He's been able to gain the support of Ms. Merkel on this, but she is fragilized at home, and she's also less ambitious in her plans. And of course, what everybody is talking about is that in 9 months, the European electors will head to the polls for the European elections, and this will really be a test for the popularity of Mr. Macron. French voters are likely to vote more about his policies at home and less about Europe, and this is a problem for Mr. Macron. He remains a pretty unpopular figure at home. His administration has been rocked by several scandals, and some of his policies has been seen as favoring the rich against the working class. So we'll have to wait another 9 months to see if he is able to shake up European politics in the same way he's managed to shake up French politics.